Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, and today I'm talking about how you can hack your sewing patterns, and I'm specifically talking about how you can hack a blouse into a dress. I have 7 tips for you today. The last hack I did, so it's pattern hackathon week or month, and it's also Ankara appreciation week. So I decided to make an item that works for both sewing challenges, and I made the rosette tie front top, which is a free pattern from Mood, into a dress. This is perhaps the easiest hack possible, where I just lengthened the garment. So I made the top a few weeks ago. You'll see the review on my channel, and I'll leave it in the cards. But this is the dress I made from the very same pattern. And of course, it looks quite different, right? So let me get into my 7 tips for things you should consider when hacking your patterns. Now, the first thing, as I mentioned, was the length. That's a very easy adjustment. You usually have a mark for where the waist is in a blouse, or perhaps even a shorts or something, or a skirt. But you want to measure at least from your waist, or where the garment would typically hit. But I typically try to go from my waist to the length of my dress. Another option for your measurement would be from your shoulder seam or your shoulder to the length of your dress, making sure you go over your bust line, because measuring this way and measuring this way for most of us women will be very different, right? So you measure from your shoulder seam over your bust to the length that you want your dress to be. And that will tell you how long you want to make your dress. It was a blouse, but how long do you need it to be? It needs to be a dress. Now, with that said, we know where the dress is supposed to hit, right? So now we need to make sure we can walk into it. Walk in it, sorry. Some blouses are too narrow if we carried it all the way down straight to the hem. So when you're walking, you want to make sure that you can walk without any restrictions. So you need to think about 2 options. Either you're going to flare that hem, so the hem is going to be wider, or you're going to add splits. Ideally, for walking, you want your splits to go above your knee. So you decide whether you want to widen the hem so that you can walk in it easily, or you want to add a split to at least just above your knee. And that might be a split in the back or a split in the side. You know, you decide where you want your split to land. It could be on your thigh, for all I know. But that lets you know that you can walk easily. And if you're going to add a split, especially in the side, you will have to increase the side seam a little to accommodate sewing that split open. All right, so that's another consideration. Third consideration, now that you know if you're going to keep your dress narrow or you're going to flare it a little, you need to account for your hips, right? So you measure to about where your hip would start. And if the blouse naturally, and usually most blouses cover your hip or skim your hip easily, but this is not always the case. For example, the tank top in my thumbnail, it has been turned into a dress. Now, if I were to carry that at the waist straight down, you'll have some pulling and stuff at the hip area that you probably wouldn't want, even if it's a really great stretch fabric. So what you probably will have to do is flare your skirt. So you're going to bring it from the waist measurement out to the hem. And you have to ensure that it can actually accommodate your hip size. So you have to think about your hips. For some of us, our hips are very large. For some, it's narrow, and so it's not as important. But for those who have wider hips, you have to ensure that you slope the dress in such a way that it accommodates your hip. So you're thinking about taking measurements, let's say from the waist to the hip and then across to ensure that, you know, the measurements are accounted for. So think about accommodating your hip when creating your dress. All right. Now, with that said, you have to decide how you're going to attach or lengthen your garment. So are you going to have to cut a separate skirt and attach it? Or can you just grade or slope out the blouse that you have? Or maybe you're keeping it straight up and down. I have a shirt blouse I'm about to sew. I'm saying about, but I don't think I'll get to it until August. But that shirt blouse is so wide, I'm just going to carry it all the way down and add splits up the side. So I'm just lengthening it. But for some things, especially things that are more fitted on top, you're going to have to attach. The skirt or the lower part of the dress. So you have to think about how you're going to attach it, and then what are you attaching? Think about the style you want. So you're thinking, and I'm looking at my notes because I want to be thorough. So you're looking at whether you want it to be sleek and smooth, or you want it to be gathered, or it could be pleated. And there are lots of different types of pleats that you could do. You could do regular pinch pleats. You could do fine pleats, wide pleats. I mean, there are just tons of different types of pleats, guys. Look it up on Pinterest. Pinterest is my favorite place when it comes to getting ideas for, you know, skirt styles and stuff like that. So how are you going to attach it, lengthen or attach it, and then are you going to use pleats or gathers to create the lower half of your dress? All right, and then we want to think about adding shape. Now, not every dress is straight up and down. So even for the dress that I'm going to be creating from the shirt, I'm going to be adding ties. Ties are, or like belts or ties, there are easy ways to cinch your waist and add some shape to your garment. Another thing you can do would be elastics, ruching, something like that. Those are things that are very on trend now that you could use. So you want to think about adding shape using ties, belts, or some type of elastic at the waist if you want shape. And then finally, you're also thinking about where you're going to attach or where you're going to lengthen from. So stay with me. Do you want an umpire waist dressed? Do you want an umpire waist dress so that's just under your bust? Or do you want a high waist, something that really cinches at the smallest part of your waist? Or do you want a drop waist, which is very on trend now for 2025, where you're just perhaps about or above your hip bone, so the waist is lower. So think about that. Some people actually add length to the very hem of a long blouse, and that's just a whole different look altogether. So guys, those are my main tips. If you found any of these useful, please let me know. And if you have any additional tips, leave them in the comments below. Now I'll give you a little bonus tip. And the bonus tip would be, if you're new to this, you can actually trace your pattern. You can do a muslin. So you can trace your pattern, you can find some old sheets that you're about to throw out or something, and you can create a mock-up of the design that you want to do. You don't have to sew it all the way through, you just want to ensure that it's probably gonna fit. And yeah, I think that is, an easy way to ensure, especially if you're cutting into some really nice fabric. It's an easy way to ensure that you're going to get exactly what you want. So you trace your pattern onto paper, could be newspaper, could be paper, grease paper, whatever you have access to, or pattern making paper, you know, it's up to you. But you trace your pattern onto something, you cut a mock-up, and then you fit it onto your body. So if it's a pullover, you're just stitching the sides and the shoulders to make sure that it will go over easily. If it's a shirt, you don't have to do like the seam, the buttonholes and all of that. You're just sewing the sides and the shoulders and making sure that it can close and it will fit and flow nicely, right? I hope this has been helpful. Leave a comment and please subscribe. It helps my channel, and like this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.